Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 23 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Nice looking Monday. You know, every Thursday here in WOCA, we are reminded of the amazing contribution, the unbelievable contribution of our veterans, and that's on Hank Whittier's show that he does on Thursdays. And every now and then he will bring in here a veteran who will share a story that'll just, I mean, there's not a peep in the room listening to some of these stories, and I could go on and on and on and tell you about them. But the one thing I've always wished was that you could see them, you as listeners could see the faces of these guys, and in some cases some ladies, who were sharing these stories, and in some cases, at least the one I'm thinking of, the only survivor of a battle. For example, we had a gentleman in here who was the survivor of a kamikaze attack and lived through the night after being in shark-infested waters. Well, we've got two guys in here that are going to make it possible for you to see the veterans reliving and telling their stories. They're doing a documentary to preserve the veterans' memories. Joe Rothenberger and David Letellier are good friends for a long time, both talented filmmakers, producers, directors, writers. They know how to make movies, and they're making one now. It's called The Veterans Project, the documentary, and I've heard about it. I don't know much more than that, though, so let's just say good morning to David Letellier and Joe Rothenberger. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Okay.
Doing very well.
What did I get right in that, and what did I get wrong? Is there anything we needed to add to that intro?
Well, the
sounded pretty good to me.
That's it. Sounded great. The name of it really is called Spirit: Stories from Men Who Won the War.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So that's the real title of it, and.
Okay, it's called Spirit.
The Spirit. General Patton. One of his most famous quotes out there is that wars may be fought with weapons, but they're won by men, and it's the spirit of the man who leads and the men who follow that gains the victory. And that's kind of where we took the inspiration for the documentary, because it's literally a story about these men and women that were out there fighting.
Is there a personal story between the two of you that this idea came up as a filmmaking project?
Well, my dad was a veteran TV producer since he got in the Army in World War II, and I didn't know a lot about his Army days. He didn't mention them a lot. I know that he was wounded and he got the Purple Heart, and I know he fought in the Pacific, and but I mean, I found out something the other night and he palled around with this old World War II Marine who was another filmmaker. He did a lot of teacher films about Europe, and I did a lot of his editing. And they got to be friends, and they'd go out to lunch, and they said to me, "We got this idea. Why don't you do a documentary on the stories like that we went through, the personal stories, because nobody's done that. I mean, you have your documentaries about World War II, but they cover a broad range of stuff, and even Ken Burns' The War is a great documentary, but it goes only centers around 4 people, and some of them are people who were living in a town and didn't really know a lot of the soldiers they talked to. So I thought about it for a number of years, and of course my dad passed away, and his friend is still alive. He's like 89 or something like that. He lives out in
he's getting up there.
Yeah, veterans home out in California, and and I've been thinking about it, and then with all the veterans problems, with the things happening in the world, the veterans the guys are the guys that are protecting us. They're protecting our lives.
Okay, so with that said, does the film cover the young veterans as well as the older veterans?
Not yet. We're hoping to expand it with the success of this, because we are assuming it is going to be successful. We do hope to expand into and progressively through, in order of the major conflicts, into the Korean War, Vietnam, and then of course into the current Gulf conflicts, and definitely expanding upon that and making a series out of it, really.
So who's in the film?
But the reason why we did the thing on World War II is because they're the ones that are closest to passing away. There's something like 15,
we're losing them.
Yeah, 1,500 a day. That's 1,500 personal stories that are
right.
just
are being
losing. They're not going to be saved.
Like I love to talk to that guy who was a kamikaze.
I can get you. Okay, speak to Hank.
We've talked over it. We've met over it with Hank, and he's gotten us some really good connections and gave us some really good advice as far as how the production's going. So.
And that's why we started with them, because they're the one. And I believe it's the last honor flight that's leaving, so we're going to try to document.
Next month.
Right. We're going to try to get on that and document that.
And hoping to make another trip up to Washington. We've already made one.
Oh, that's nice. That's a great idea. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing, I think part of the problem, and I'm getting this, I'm not guessing it at all, I'm getting it from the vets themselves. The reason they didn't talk about it a whole lot was because the movie industry was romanticizing something that wasn't romantic at all.
We've talked to actually one veteran who he was in Guadalcanal, and he wrote a book, Hell in the Pacific. And his big complaint, his whole purpose for writing the book was that even the history books are wrong. He feels that they're not putting out the story as it happened. And there's no doubt in my mind that Hollywood does the same thing. Just coming from this side of the table where we make these movies, a lot of times there's some I don't want to say inaccuracies, because we do try and keep it, especially Joe and I, we try and keep it as accurate as possible. But there are things that are always going to be dramatized because that's what people like to see, I guess.
Now, you brought in a sound bite.
I did,
and it's kind of like a trailer, or what would you say, like when you're a guest on a TV show with a movie?
When they like set up a clip.
A clip, yeah. So set up the clip, and then I'll play it.
Well, to set up the clip, naturally, what the documentary is, and it's a completely unscripted documentary. A lot of people have been like, "Oh, what kind of script? You're gonna have voiceover and this and that." But really, we're getting all of the stories directly from the source, and through the means of interviewing. And that is the documentary. There's not any plans right now of there being any kind of voiceover or anything like that. There's no dramatization. There's just the stories of the people who were there, just like the title says. It's the stories of the men who won the war.
And the historical documentation, and even for the families of these people, like I found out the other night when I was talking to Rick Doherty, my father's friend out in California. He said, your father was on a thing called a bond tour, and I didn't even know what it is. I got to look it up now and find out what it is. He was in Burma, because he fought in China, Burma, in the army, and I didn't even know I'd never heard that before. He goes, "Yeah, your dad told me. Did you know that?" I said, "No."
Huh.
So
you don't know right now. Is it BON or B?
I don't know. He said it was he's kind of old, so he's kind of frail when you talk to him.
Bond tour.
Bond tour. I have to look it up. I don't have no idea what it is. So whatever that means.
We were talking to one guy online. He's actually contributed a little bit to the funding of the project. And when I hit him up, was like, "Hey, thanks for contributing." Blah blah blah. And his main reason for contributing was the fact that his family lost a World War II veteran. And their biggest regret was the fact that they were not able to, nobody got any stories, nobody wrote anything down, and they've lost that part of their family history.
So the clip we're going to hear is who's on the clip?
We've got 3 veterans on there.
Okay.
Each one from different battles, and if I'm not mistaken, they may actually be from completely different sections of the war.
I think they were, yes.
All right. We got one guy who's Battle of the Bulge, one Guadalcanal.
Here's a clip from the film that'll be released soon. We'll find out when in just a minute. The film is called The Spirit, Stories from the Men Who Won the War. And here it is. Here's that audio clip.
About 2 weeks after we went on the line, my old rifle company was sent to a small town where the Germans attacked, and almost the whole company was wiped out. I've never experienced anything quite like that, watching guys just completely come apart. But they lost almost everybody in the division. These guys had been in the basement of a house when the German tank put its gun actually through the window of the house, the 75 millimeters that they used, and shot. And not many of the guys came out of there. And that was a horrible experience.
You had no idea what was going to happen. We had a charge in, and shells flying every place. You were just petrified with fear. you were really scared, especially when you saw guys here and guys there being hit. And you just get to the point where you're not a human being, you're just an automatic machinery moving. And fortunately, my number wasn't on any of their bullets or anything, so I survived. You get to the point where you really don't think about anything in the future. You're so tired, and you're almost in despair, but you've got a job to do, and you do think of your family. I mean, I didn't go in there, I was going to save America. I went there to protect my 2 sisters, my young brother, because I'd seen the movies of Hitler and what the Nazis were doing, and I didn't want that to happen to my family.
We were pretty hungry then, you know. There was a patch of woods right near me, near us, with my squad, and there used to be a steer that would stay in there overnight and come out, lick up the grass for water and food, and he'd go back in for the daytime. Well, of course, we were getting hungry and looking at that steer and say, boy, there must be a good steak in him. And the next thing you know, he was shot and he was cut up, and we couldn't have any fires at night. So we set up a deal where we had a fire going, and we got a GI can, and we put the meat in there, and that was really boiled, and it was tender. And one time, we're looking for it, and this is where the first Marines got shot up so bad. One time I was come across a hole that was round, and there must have been about 5 Marines in there facing different ways, and they were all dead. So what I did was I went and cut one dog tag each one of them and saved them. And then that's what I was running to all that stuff there. And they go back the next day, same thing, same crap. And I went down to grave registration, and I said, here's the dog tags of 5 Marines, and they're right up there. And I never knew if they went up after them or not, but I hope they did.
Is that the end of it?
That's the end of it.
Okay, all right. Well, that is moving. And you can almost see those guys in your mind as you're listening to those audio clips. I like the story about the guy who killed the steer.
Yes, some of them are kind of, some of them are kind of things you wouldn't know about, like kind of funny. But one other guy we talked to told me he found a barn full of beer kegs.
No, it was a beer silo.
Beer silo. and they opened up one of the kegs and had a good time. They just drank all the beer.
I mean, think about it. They were kids. I mean, they were just young men.
Right.
Will you be traveling to each of the veterans? Will you be taking your camera with you so they don't have to come to you? You'll be going to them.
Yes.
We've done actually all of them have been in the vets' houses so far.
Right.
We come to them. We do it as comfortable as possible, and you know, we try not to be too intrusive.
Well, the one thing that I think we've probably all witnessed with the veterans, not just the older ones, but even the younger ones, is that A, you've got to find them, and B, they've got to be ready to talk.
Mm-hmm. Right. Some of them.
A lot of them. Is there anything? I mean, have you come upon anybody who, like, let's say somebody said, this guy's got a great story, but you went to him and he'd rather talk to you about pinochle or something?
Right. I did. I have. Well, I called one man on the phone who was part of the Tuskegee Air Squad or organized it or something. Uh-huh. He didn't want to do it. He said, "Look, I didn't do anything. I don't really want my story out. He didn't really want to talk. I mean, I really like to get him, but I can't force him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
a lot of them have been really slow to get going into the interview and really get into it. But once you get them talking, it's usually hard to get them to stop, which is good for us. And it's at the end of the day, when I've already got probably close to 15 hours of just raw footage.
Part of the reason you're here is to let us know about something called Kickstarter.com, and that's how you're funding the film. How does that work?
Well, Kickstarter it's a social funding website where people with goals of being able to do something of the artistic or technology based things like that. Films. A lot of authors are getting books funded through there. A lot of really great projects, and we decided to give that a try when it came to actually raising the funding to get the production costs covered, because naturally flying to Washington and getting
how much money do you need?
Right now we've got a budget set at about $7,000 just to cover the production cost.
Okay. And it's always good to say the dollar amount. Something Robin and I learned a long time ago is that you can ask people to help you out, but if you never tell them what you need, they don't. I mean, I don't know. They either think it's too big or something, or they can't handle it. $20 here, $20 there, $7,000 is a small budget for a film. I mean, compared to what you hear out of Hollywood, right?
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. Well, a lot of the Hollywood productions tend to have really extensive crew and things like that, and whereas we keep it as small as we can to control that cost.
Plus, you don't have to pay the extras.
Exactly, we're not.
Right.
Well, we don't have any acting talent. Like a lot of the expense is going to come from not only the travel to Washington D.C. to do what we did at the National World War II Monument and to collect footage from the National Archives, but it's going to come from music licensing and things like that. That without the music that you heard, we've got that piece licensed, but without music to carry it along, it just doesn't have the same punch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And when you brought up earlier about the veteran, that's the Tuskegee Airman, even though he might not have been in battle, they just don't realize that the behind-the-scenes stuff is a very important contribution to the safety of our country.
I couldn't convince him yet. I'm going to try to, but so it's a great, as I said, a great. I'm trying to convince him to say, this is your story. You would any contribution you could make would be wonderful to the film, because we're trying to get as many stories as we possibly can documented. And
we've got to go up to near Quantico. There's Major Spooner up there, who's done some really. I don't want to say famous, but he's got some notoriety
on the Marines, and he's been on Discovery Channel, and he's got a
great restaurant.
He's a restaurant up there, but
nice.
Yeah, he retired and opened up a restaurant, 3 actually, because the first one burned down, and then they had to move because the government needed to build a road, and they found a nice new spot. It's called the Globe and Laurel.
I'm trying to get him to say yes. I got his girl working on him. He's like 89, and
Well, that's the way. Get a girl to work on him. It'll help all the time. Yeah. Let's go to the phone. Somebody's waiting patiently. Good morning. You're on the air. Are you there? Oh, I guess they left. We heard their feedback.
They're not waiting patiently.
We heard their feedback.
No.
We heard their feedback. By the way, if you are listening and you are a veteran or you know of a veteran, I heard a little story that might help you decide to participate in a project like this. It's a story about a loaf of bread, and somebody went to interview one of the grains to say, how did you get involved in this important project to feed a family, And the grain said, well, I didn't do anything. I'm just a grain. Well, every single grain said the same thing, and before you knew it, none of the grains thought that they were important. But the truth is, to put it into context here, everybody who contributed to that team that did that amazing feat of conquering what would have been a totally different world.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. If you didn't have the grains of sand, you wouldn't have a beach.
There would probably be no Jewish people on this planet right now if it wasn't for the Allied forces. There would probably not be any Muslim people on this planet.
There probably wouldn't be a whole lot of things if people like these guys hadn't stepped in and put a stop to it. We wouldn't be sitting here doing this radio show right now.
Yeah.
We'd be doing some government radio show, talking all sorts of propaganda
with swastikas on our arms or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No question about
it. Their little contributed when they contributed, they would think it's so little. All that together, as I said, their spirit help win the war. You know what I mean? And free us and gain our freedom.
Have you been able to speak to any of the Holocaust victims and some of the people who, literally, we were fighting?
Not yet, but we haven't really
reached out to them for this documentary. Mostly because our focus isn't so much in that area. I like to try and maintain a focus on one subject. And when you're talking about the stories of the vets, now. That isn't to say we wouldn't, if one came to us with a story, we would naturally, make sure we documented that. How it would pertain into the documentary, we'd have to find a way. I would change the script if that actually came up.
Well, yeah. I mean, in my own dad's case, I worked with a guy who was the boss of the boss of the boss, like the top of the ladder, the very rich guy. He was into World War II memorabilia, and this guy spent his money on tanks, on anything you could think of. And one time he had a show, and he showed all of his memorabilia. And I walked through the thing with my mom and dad. That's when my dad opened up, because there was a tank sitting there similar to the one he drove, and next thing you know, I'm hearing stories I never heard in my life. So I don't know what it takes to open them up, but when, like with your dad, Joe, you know, you heard it from other people.
I heard it. I heard something. He told me some stuff, but like after he passed away, I found letters that he had written to my mother. I'm in a foxhole, and it's night, and it's raining, and I can't. I don't know if I'm going to make it, and you know, I love you, and blah blah blah, and thank God he did it, because I wouldn't be here right now if he hadn't made it. But you know, and I didn't even know that letter existed.
Wow.
Will you be showcasing those letters also, like reading them in your voice? That would be wonderful.
I might. I have to kind of like search them again, but I might do some of them. Yes, it depends on how the film goes.
I've got a friend, Matt, who his father was a field surgeon during the war, and he left very detailed journals about some of the things that he saw, and we're actually going to have him on reading his father's journals as soon as we can get that scheduled.
Once it's released, how is it released? Is it a DVD?
Well, we're probably going to put it on Blu-ray. The entire thing's been shot in high definition now.
Okay. See, I'm always confused about the two differences. I don't even know.
Well, Blu-ray is an HD, is a new HD high definition.
That's the thing.
DVD.
Right? I don't even use the word DVD anymore, right?
Well, we'll be able to put it out on DVD, because a lot of the libraries and school systems aren't on Blu-ray, obviously. Because who's got that kind of a budget? But we do want to put it into the education system. Naturally, that is the purpose of doing any documentary, and lately we've been doing many.
So you're it's exclusively World War II vets on this particular film?
On this one, yes.
Okay. Let's go to the phone. We got the lines lit up here. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes. Good morning, gentlemen. Have you thought about interviewing any of the atomic bomb survivors?
Like the Japanese survivors?
Yes.
If we were able to find some, that would definitely be something we'd be
I'm sure
interested in documenting.
That went through that experience. I'm sure there's plenty of them.
I think a flight to Japan would significantly increase our production costs. But if there's any here in Ocala, or if anybody knows of any,
there could be some that have migrated here. To research it out. It'd be very interesting to hear the stories.
I'd love to hear from somebody who is actually at that blast site. That would be very interesting to talk to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And let me squeeze in one last call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Larry. This is June.
Hi, June.
How are you today?
Good.
I have a name of someone that the people that are making this film may be interested in. He's the Dr. Emeritus pastor of the Central Baptist Church. His name is Dr. Jesse Bloom, and he is a WW2 vet. He's in his 90s now. He's still preaching. And he has the most unbelievable stories about World War II you could ever imagine. He's even brought in some of the memorabilia that he has brought back with him.
That's always nice. We noticed a lot of the guys have actually lost a lot of their old memorabilia, photos, medals.
Oh, wow. And Jim, did you get her information?
I got a Jesse Bloom, Central Baptist Church.
Yes, I can give you his phone number of the church if you'd like.
Do you want to do it
let's do that off the air.
You want to do it off the air, June?
Oh, no, it's a phone number. You can call the church anytime. Anyone can.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's, of course, the area is 352. It's 694-2212. I can't tell you if he'll do that or not, but, I mean, he is just got the most amazing stories. How he survived all that is beyond me, honestly.
Wow, great.
And and he freed one of the first concentration camps, and he just talks about it. He has pictures from that and everything. It is amazing.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's a great resource.
He is awesome, I'll tell you. So, anyway, I just wanted to put a little bug in your ear. I hope he goes and does it, because, I mean, he just is, when you hear these stories, you won't believe it.
Wow.
Oh, I know that. I've heard many stories.
I'm sure you've heard them. Yes, you have. But anyway, God bless you all for doing this, and thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, June. How would somebody get a hold of you if they want to help finance, if they want to recommend a veteran to participate?
We are definitely still looking for vets, too. The more, the merrier. I mean, worst case scenario, I ended up making a 3 DVD set. Luckily, with the documentary, I'm not restricted on how long it is.
So how do we get a hold of you?
If somebody wanted to get a hold of us, naturally, they can call my phone, which is 352 area code 454-9799. They can go to our website, phoenixstudiosfl.com. We actually got a link set up there for people who want to donate through PayPal. We got links to the Kickstarter program, or they can just look at us on Kickstarter.com and search for the title of the documentary, which is The Stories of the Men Who Won the War.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you both. Thank you, Joe Rothenberger. Good to see you again.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that we are going to, when we get proceeds from it, we're going to donate a lot of the proceeds to the veterans organization that help vets.
Okay, great.
I think that's a great idea to get them, because I think they deserve it. Even my wife has a business, and she donates a lot of her proceeds to the Wounded Warrior program and stuff like that. So, and that's what we're going to do. So it's kind of like a educational / sort of a fundraiser for that program,
And the big contribution will be that the future generations will know
their personal stories.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah. David Letellier, thank you
for having me.
Thank you both for coming in. We'll take a little break and we will be back.
Did you know the Quick Care at West Marion Community Hospital is now open from 9 to midnight, 7 days a week?
Wow, that's good to know for any minor emergencies. And Ocala Health also makes it easy to find the average ER wait times at their hospitals in case you have a more serious emergency.
Really?
Yes, you can text ER to 23,000.